Legacy 420 has medicinal and recreational products down to a science, literally. With 2 biochemists on staff and a chief scientific advisor, every product is tested in the Legacy 420 laboratory. Legacy 420, Tyendinaga. Open 9 to 9 every day. Visit legacy420.com.
Good evening. I'm Coulter Wonkite. I'm already into the 420, damn it.
So what are you doing? Nothing. Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
What's the matter with that cat there?
Must be full of reefer.
Full of reefers?
Yeah, man.
Mean that cat's high?
Sailing.
Sailing?
Lightly.
We now wander off the beaten path with an update from the Reefer Reporter.
Hello and welcome to the Reefer Reporters. It's December the 3rd, 2018, and we are live here at 420radio.ca. I'm Al Graham, and this week, Northern Ontario Kim Cooper joins me at the Legacy 420 news desk. Hello, Kim. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good today, Al. Pretty good indeed, especially with this wonderful story we've got right up off the top of the hour. Christmas is coming early.
It sure is. It looks like the government is coming up with their draft regulations for edibles here in Canada.
Yeah, real sooner rather than later. It looks like we're going to be talking about this. Let's hope that it gets actually enacted sooner rather than later. But it looks like they're in it for the long haul. But at least they're preparing early and discussions are happening. Yes, edibles are on the table. Edible sales are slated to begin next year. But they're working out the details as we speak.
Yes, as normally when it comes to new regulations, new laws, things end up in the Canada Gazette, which is the government's official newspaper. And once those regulations are put into the paper, people will have an opportunity to comment on them.
Yeah, they most certainly do, and they most certainly have. Christmas is coming early is one of the major things that people are saying, and it's also the headline of this story.
Yes, it is, exactly. So these will be printed in the Gazette, and the final version of the regulations could be published there as well around July, which would be give them until October 17, 2019. You got to assume it's the same date as last year.
Yeah, they're going to probably try and keep it around the same framework. They did say that legalization of edibles would be rolled in within 12 months. So to me, that kind of says before the 12-month mark. So hopefully this will happen maybe a little bit sooner rather than later at the end.
That's right, yeah. That includes edibles, beverages, concentrates.
Yeah. That's correct. That's correct. So they're looking at how they're going to do that. Product labeling, ingestion breakdowns. Labeling is a big issue surrounding regulations on concentrates, quantities, and percentages. All of these things are being looked at as well as marketing aspects, what the do's and the don'ts will be, and all the rest of it. And I'm sure it will be debated for the next 10, 12 months.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. Well, talking about do's and don'ts, Deepak Anand, he's the Vice President of Toronto Consultancy Cannabis Compliance, and he says 5 issues that are big to him is the need for transparency in ingredients and traceability, how variations in nutrient and non-nutrient components of food pose challenges in product development, appropriate dosing amounts and serving size boundaries, packaging to avoid appeal to children, and the need for tamper-proof food packaging, and then label requirements. Can you just imagine what the food packaging will be like? We saw what the cannabis was like. Everybody was horrified. What's it going to be like with food?
I mean, it almost looks radioactive. I mean, I was ready for the big radioactive symbol to be on there with the big round exclamation point telling everybody to just stay away and how dangerous it is. I mean, it's astonishing to me the amount of labeling requirements that's being required on this product, when we have packaging stuff like alcohol, which is toxic and is killing people, and it's portrayed like soda pop and candy.
Yeah, well, I know I posted on Facebook something to do with the advertising laws, but I'm gonna get us right off topic. But yeah, no, this is great that we'll be seeing these hopefully within the next couple weeks. Like this is December now, right?
It's December now, so I mean they're already talking about it. So it's a good thing that it's being discussed. It means that legalization is in fact moving forward.
Yeah, it's according to a story at Marijuana Business Daily.
Yeah.
Yes.
From there, we're gonna stay federal for a minute.
Yeah. So we're gonna continue with that ongoing saga of cannabis shortages here in our country.
It's almost hard to say those words together, isn't it? Cannabis shortage.
Yes, that's right.
It's difficult to put those words together. It really is. But it is, in fact, happening. Legal cannabis for sale for purchase across this country is in short supply. Places are shutting down, limiting hours, and others are just not even opening to start with after plan to do so because there's been so much shortage. And now there's new ways of figuring out what and when is available.
How to purchase it. Companies are actually having people spend 24/7 on the websites of the provincial companies or government's supply spots, and they're hiring people to sit there and just watch the computers, waiting for product to appear so they can try to make a purchase.
This is it's funny to me because it's reminiscent of the original days of when we had the MMPR. When it rolled over from the MMAR into the MMPR, and then it went into the ACMPR. There was a limited supply of cannabis available from a limited amount of producers, and patients would literally sit on the website and hit refresh, waiting for products to pop up so they could order them so quick. And then if you were 5 minutes late, there was none left, and you were SOL.
Yeah, and that's what's happening here with the retail businesses as well.
Yeah, so welcome to our world. Welcome
right.
to legalization.
Soon as something gets posted, it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. And this is what patients have gone through, and we fought to have it evolve over the course of the years and the evolution of the cannabis regime that we've had in Canada, which has now evolved into the Cannabis Act. And the legal producers are feeling the brunt of what patients felt all those years ago and have continued to feel. And that's a lack of quality medication being even available anywhere. So now provinces are learning to deal with what we have been bitching about for all these years with the legal producers and the system that we have now. We've been telling them it doesn't work.
Because companies, they have employees, they have leases, they have, costs to run a business, but yet there's no supply there for them to put in it.
That's it. And, all of these companies signed, contracts for delivery, and the deliveries aren't taking place. So what is the government doing about it? Remains to be seen.
You can't just all of a sudden make up a quick batch of bud.
No, that's right. That's right. If you made promises for product that you do not have available until next year, you shouldn't have made those promises for that product. And in business, doing that, there's a list of things that's breach of. So trust is one of them, and not the only one. But for sure, there's a list of things that you're in breach of. It's just not done. And I don't understand why we're allowing it to continue, because contracts are still being signed.
Yeah. It's going on.
So you need a job watching the computers. Talk to the province that you live in. They have people watching to see when it's going to be.
Last week, Irene and I reported 250 stores were slated for Alberta, and they've only opened 65, and they're not going to open any more until there's a supply to put in the stores.
Yeah. Yeah, and Ontario's grand plan for all the stores we're supposed to open, right?
Maybe it's been a blessing for them, not for Ontarians, but for the suppliers that Ontario hasn't opened any stores.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to be flocking in droves to apply now.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to one guy recently. He's not going to open a store.
A lot of people are saying that now, right?
Yeah,
They've changed their mind.
Why put all that money into it right now when there's nothing to put in the store?
That's it. And that's what we're facing in the future unless something gives in this system.
All right, let's move away from supply issues to a little bit of information from law enforcement.
Yeah, we're going to run down to Newfoundland and Labrador, but the policy pretty much holds true across the board, no matter where you live.
Correct.
These are the regs. We're going to confront something that a lot of people are asking. Okay, I've got this legal pot. I'm taking it from A to B. How exactly do I get it there? What do the laws say? Where am I supposed to put it?
Well, Corporal Jolene Garland, she's in Newfoundland, she's with the RCMP there. She says a person can take a sealed bag and place it pretty well anywhere in the vehicle. Keyword sealed, it says there. But if the seal has been broken or if you're taking cannabis that you've grown from your home in a dried form, it has to be stored in a place that's inaccessible or not readily available to the driver or any other occupant in the vehicle. So your armrest just doesn't cut it.
No, your armrest doesn't cut it. Your glove box doesn't cut it. Your back pocket doesn't cut it.
Under the seat doesn't cut it. The glove box doesn't cut it.
No.
Now somebody said, I seen a post online where someone said, what if your glove box was locked and your key was on your key ring? So you'd have to shut your car off in order to unlock your glove box.
I don't know. I mean, if you want to get into technicalities and arguments, if you want to push the envelope to that extreme, just because you're carrying cannabis, when you could simply stick it in your trunk instead and avoid the argument, then I would wish you all the best of luck in that and let me know how it turns out.
Yeah, well, the officer goes on to say that unsealed cannabis can be stored legally and properly in the trunk of a car, the back hatch of an SUV, and the back of a minivan or pickup truck. Can you imagine throwing an ounce in the back of a pickup truck, watch it blow, and out you just drive down the road? Now, I do have a question about the minivans, and this was brought up by a friend of ours, and he says, okay, you put it in the back of a minivan. I've got kids, they're seatbelted in the back of the minivan. Kids get into everything.
Yeah, that's right. They do. They do.
They do.
And these new regs, like everything else, is going to wind up being altered and everything else. I mean, they're trying to treat it like alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, they're applying the same rules as alcohol. It's got to be in the trunk. It's got to be in the back of your. This is not a bottle. It's not staying in the back of your pickup truck. It's not a case of beer that's just going to be anchored in the back of your pickup truck. It's a baggie or a bottle floating around in a plastic bag. It's not going to work, right? and putting it in the very back seat. Well, now, like he says, it's accessible to kids now.
I guess it depends. Right. Yeah, you'd have to. Yeah, I don't.
What do we do? Absolutely no freaking.
A station wagon. A kid can't reach into the back end of a station wagon because the seat belted in. A minivan, I don't know.
Yeah.
He commented his kids can, twist and they're, what do you call them? Double jointed, all that. Kids are flexible, right?
Kids are flexible. So. I think the whole idea behind the law is stow it so it's not accessible. So if you've got a minivan, there's compartments in the back that, have close down holders, where your tools are kept. You can stick it there. It's a bottle. You can stick it.
Now, there are a few exceptions. If you're paying for a fare, such like for a taxi or a bus, you can carry cannabis on you, whether it's sealed or not sealed. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you have a motorhome, you can consume it when it's parked. It's as if you're at your home.
Yeah. while it's being utilized as your home.
You're sitting in Walmart for the next 48 hours, you know?
Yeah, then you can sit there and puff a doob. But you shouldn't, your keys aren't supposed to be in the ignition and all this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. And they go on to suggest here that you wait at least 6 hours before getting behind the wheel. As we know, they can still show positive 10 hours afterwards.
Yeah. So even if you wait 6 hours, if you don't know if you're going to fail.
Yeah. Now, she does suggest give yourself a lot of time to make sure that cannabis has left your system and is no longer impairing your ability to operate a motor vehicle. Ooh, a lot of us feel like that a lot sooner than 10 hours.
That's for sure. Standardized testing doesn't work with cannabis. The rules that they're implying with this around alcohol regs and smoking regs don't apply to cannabis. They're trying to integrate all these other sets of rules that we have in our lives surrounding other substances and trying to apply them to cannabis instead of creating a normalized cannabis law and regime within the country in its own right instead of piggybacking on all of these others.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to our next story.
Yeah, next one we're going to head out to good old Quebec. Quebec is in the news with cannabis quite a bit.
Yes.
Lots going on in Quebec.
It seems that they pulled a video that may contravene the cannabis advertising laws.
Yeah, imagine that. The SAQ is indeed probably, most likely, being in violation of Quebec's own advertising policy in that province.
Yep, they were playing in the store on a continuous loop in all 12 of the stores, and they used words, like calming, relaxing, energizing, euphoric, conducing. They're not, describing how marijuana is going to affect you, but they could see them from the front window of the store. Anybody walking by could see these, and that's not allowed.
That's not allowed. The SAQ originally defended the ads, saying, they were educational videos, because within the 2.5-minute continuous loop video clip, there was 16 seconds of actual education material.
Oh, that was it, eh?
16 seconds.
Yes, well, the Quebec Public Health an organization is calling for the video to be permanently removed. It sounds like it has.
It sounds like it has. The SAQ is being slapped, and no doubt, and said, you can't be doing this. And the ads have been removed from the stores that were using them.
Yes, well, Quebec put some advertising restrictions in place to avoid targeting of minors and adults who have not already entered the section of the store. So I guess you could see it. They didn't want
calming and relaxing.
Yeah, they're not allowed to say that. Can you just imagine that? They're not even allowed to say that.
Oh, you can't say it's calming and relaxing and you're going to enjoy it. Oh, no.
Yeah. The province's Cannabis Regulation Act restricts direct or indirect advertising for the promotion of cannabis, including advertising intended to provide customers with factual information.
So their entire argument of factual information was hooey anyway. It amazes me how one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing throughout this entire process.
and they risk a fine, $5,000 to $500,000 fine for showing this video.
Yeah.
Now back to my Facebook post that I mentioned earlier. I put a Facebook ad of an Aurora ad, just said Aurora, and had some colored pictures, and then it had beside it had a drinking ad, and it had somebody sitting on the beach, and it showed these long legs and all that stuff in it. And the Aurora ad, you had to prove you're 18 or 19 plus before you could see it.
That's insane, right? I mean, that's insane.
And it didn't even have a picture of a cannabis leaf. It didn't even mention the word cannabis.
No, nowhere in it. It was just a nice, relaxing picture, calm, normal picture that you could put on a postcard, but you cannot look at that because it was put out by a cannabis company. Now, this one that was put out by the booze company, yeah, you can see that all day.
Yeah. Somebody's long legs on the beach.
Yeah. Let's get sex and get sexual and enticing and stuff, and parade the body around people and appeal to young people. Yeah, no, that doesn't appeal to young people at all.
No, not at all. No, whatsoever. Okay, Kim, let's move on to our next story before we go for break. This is our last one before break.
All right, sounds good. We've got some places that are getting on a bandwagon that are looking at opting out.
That's right. Well, the city of Brampton, Charmaine Williams, she started launching a campaign to ban cannabis stores in Brampton.
Yeah, big city of Brampton, just on the outskirts of the GTA. She doesn't want cannabis in her neighborhood. She doesn't want cannabis stores in her neighborhood. And she says she feels the residents feel the same way. So she's gotten herself some signs made and is happy to provide people that feel the same way with a sign for their lawn. She started a campaign in advance to some community meetings that are going to be taking place.
Yes. She says that the Flower City doesn't need a retail weed shop on every block. Did you know weeds are just flowers that people didn't want?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're bad.
Okay, the Flower City doesn't want to acknowledge a plant.
Right, that's right, yeah. Well, she has come to the conclusion that Brampton would be better off without cannabis stores.
Oh, she's come to that conclusion, has she?
Yeah, she said. Her quote says, "I know it's not cool to say so, but Brampton is known as the Flower City, and we don't need weed in our garden." Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes I just have no words from people. It's amazing to me, some of the mindsets that are out there. She's going around neighborhoods door to door and talking to people, and she says the families that she spoke to are completely against it. Well, we've seen that through prohibition from the beginning of time, that people to your face will tell you one thing, but they are also the ones that are anxiously waiting for their OCS orders to come in the mail.
Yeah. Well, what's it going to stop?
Yeah.
Because cannabis is still going to get into any place that opts out.
They're
going to go to the next place. They're going to order it online. They're going to go get it there from their body. They're going to grow it in their yard.
You're going to stop a store from opening. And as for having them on every corner, that's not happening anywhere in the country.
Bylaws.
And bylaws make sure of that.
And she's a city councilor.
She knows all of this already. So she's either completely daft of the actual existing legislation and framework that's in place, or she is being completely ignorant to it on purpose, knowingly, in which case she's lying to her constituents. So either way, I'd be looking at this lady.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. She's got websites going, everything.
Yeah.
They're scheduled to have, Brampton City Council is scheduled to have its first debate on private retail cannabis stores on Wednesday.
Yeah. So you know what? The naysayers are always the first to do these kind of campaigns and hold these meetings. And the people that are on board with it are the ones that have to go there and say, hey, listen, you know what? There's more of us than there are of you. So y'all need to sit down. Mm-hmm. And then they will. But if nobody else shows up except the naysayers, then majority will win.
Yeah.
And if that's all that's there, they win.
That's right. That's what they look at. That's what the voices they heard.
That's right.
People saying no.
That's right.
And more and more municipalities are doing this.
You know, I know we asked you to go out and vote with your feet before, and you did that with the election. And you chose your voice, and everybody has chosen their voice by using the OCS. You're going to have to do it one more time in Brampton.
That's right. Yeah. And well, let's go for break, and I'm sure we got another one of these stories after break as well.
Yeah. I need a break after that.
Yeah, okay, time for some medication. As we do that, our listeners will hear a bit of a CBC report on the concerns Canadians have with cannabis legalization. And you know that we're coming back when you hear about the island. You're listening to the Reefer Reporters. We are live here at 420radio.ca.
Hey, this is Cheech. And this is Chong. And you're listening to Lifestyle Radio. What is it? Lifestyle Radio. Say it one more time. 420 Radio? Ooh.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Marijuana will soon be legal in Canada. Will I get high? No, I will not.
No, smoking makes my life insurance too expensive.
I'm concerned about the smell everywhere, pretty much. It puts me off, and too many crazy people around.
Well, my parents are a bit concerned about it. They've warned me about brain development, how it can possibly slow down, for example, your memory, your learning abilities. But they've told me as long as you do it once in a while with some friends at a party, it's okay.
My concern with the legalization of marijuana is people getting high and driving. It's a huge concern for me. I know people that do use marijuana currently and do it and then go home and drive.
No, I don't have any concerns or worries. I think it's been proven safer than drinking alcohol, so they should have done this a long time ago.
I'll get high, but I'll tell you, I don't know about these edibles, because they're going to make them look like jelly beans and chocolate bars, and a lot of kids like jelly beans and chocolate bars. You know, like Ma leaves her stash out on the table one night because she's too high. Little Junior gets up in the morning, grabs a handful of jelly beans. Where's he going? He's getting high.
My concern is organizations or organized crime that currently sells marijuana will move on to harder drugs. And I want to know if we have a plan to contain that, because we haven't done a good job at containing marijuana distribution, even though it was illegal.
I have used marijuana for the last 50 years. I'm okay.
They didn't have to legalize it for me to get high.
Legacy 420 has medicinal and recreational products down to a science, literally. With 2 biochemists on staff and a chief scientific advisor, every product is tested in the Legacy 420 laboratory. Legacy 420, Tyendinaga. Open 9 to 9 every day. Visit legacy420.com.
Are you looking for cannabis news, education, and people's opinions? Are you looking to learn what Canadian and international cannabis advocates are doing, not only now, but what got them to this point in their lives, and what does the future hold for them? Do you want to learn how patients are using cannabis as their daily medication, or learn how their cannabis use helps them with their medical condition? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then I'm going to suggest to you to tune in to Lifestyle Radio. Catch their live weekly shows and have your questions and concerns answered and find the experience you're looking for. Monday, catch your weekly news broadcast with the Reefer Reporters. Then on Wednesday, get several hours worth of cannabis public education. We get things started with cannabis and coffee with Tamarajuana. Finish up your evening with the award-winning Pace Radio Show with Al Graham, and no week would be complete without tuning into Friday night's program, the 420 Radio Show, featuring Al Rapp and the 420 radio crew, Mary Jane Baker and Marcel Gignac. Cannabis is a lifestyle, and you can catch all your cannabis lifestyle information right here at 420radio.ca.
Someday we'll find it. Somehow, somewhere on Healing Time Island is my friends and me. Healing Time Island is my friends and me.
We're back from our medication, and we are the Reefer Reporters, and we are live here at 420radio.ca. Well, Kim, we've got 2 more segments of news to bring to our listeners. So what's our next story?
Yeah, we're gonna touch off on some more of the opt-out sort of movement that's going with
right.
councillors around the provinces, Ontario for sure.
Yeah, 'cause we went into the break. We went into the break
Brampton,
talking about
right?
Brampton. Now
Now we got Ottawa.
Ottawa.
The nation's capital. How can the nation's capital be considering opting out?
Wow. Well, apparently there is a chance there because one of their councillors, Carol Ann Meehan, thinks that they should.
Yeah, well, I don't think that they should, but of course I don't think that anybody should. That's just my personal opinion, and y'all know it. But the reasons are numerous. It's not going to stop it coming into your jurisdiction, no matter where you live. It's going to be available online federally. It's going to be available online provincially. They've already guaranteed us that with the OCS. If that's not available, they'll go to the black market. That's going to continue. No question about it. And if that isn't available to them, they'll just go outside of your area and go to the next town over and get it there and bring it back home. It's not going to keep it out of your regions. It's not going to keep it out of your neighborhoods. It's legal.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they're going to hold a special meeting on December the 3rd. And proponents of opting in have said barring retail shops from opening in Ottawa would be a benefit to the black market. Yeah, so they're going to have a special meeting on December the 13th, and people who are against, that are for them to open the stores are saying, hey, if you don't open the stores, you're just going to benefit the black market, which, the government is trying to eliminate.
Yeah, you're playing right into the hands of what you say you want to get rid of. If you don't want so-called black market and unlicensed producers around, then you have to supply the public with a product that they can buy legally in their area where they live. If you do not do that, they will go elsewhere to buy it.
Yeah. Well, Miss Meehan says that she understands that they will probably more likely end up coming to Ottawa at some point, but she said that the city finds itself in a good negotiating position at the moment as the province is set to make millions of dollars off the stores. Negotiations have already happened.
Negotiations are done. This lady's late for the train as usual. It's finished. Everything has already been laid out. The framework is out there from coast to coast. Everything is done. Everybody else is deciding whether they're opting in or opting out, and that is the only question left to be answered. If you opt out, you do not get the benefits of the second round of funding that's supposed to be available to only those that house retail operations to deal with anything that may come along with housing with that retail operation. If you do not house one, you do not get the second round of funding that's going to be available under the Cannabis Act. So all you're doing is giving up taxpayers' money.
Yep. Well, she says if we say no, we're not going to open them, then the province stands to lose millions of dollars. If we say yes, we are going to open them, then we're stuck with the costs.
I don't think the province will lose anything if they stand to not open one. The province will save money by not giving them the tax dollars that is encompassed with giving them a retail application. Not to mention, then the population will continue to purchase on all the other avenues and fronts, and life will continue. I don't think anybody's going to lose anything at this point.
And here's another one. Johnny come me lately here. She's pushing for strict identification rules for customers at the cannabis stores, similar to those in place at the LCBO. You tell me an LCBO where you have to show ID before you get in the door.
Yeah. If they loosened them to the effect of LCBO and allowed for private retail the way LCBO does today, then I think a lot of people would be happier. It's way tighter than LCBO standards are now.
Way tighter.
Saying that is a reduction in standards.
When you go into the LCBO, you pick up your bottle of booze and you go to the counter. When you go into a cannabis store, you gotta tell them what you want, and they go get it for you.
LCBO is allowed to advertise inside the store.
Yeah. And they could be seen from the street.
That's it. I mean, we'd be kind of happy with LCBO policy, really. If you want to do that, go ahead.
Yeah. It improves things,
It does. It's an improvement. I mean, but it just shows that the woman has no clue.
That's right. Yeah. Oh well, she'll learn. She's new. She's a new counselor. She'll learn. Yep. She'll learn. So, all right. In a previous story, we were talking about shortages of cannabis flower at the stores and stuff, and that's not the only thing that they're short of at the store, but it's the only thing that gets the highlights.
Yeah, really it is. But there's a really much bigger issue when you're talking about the long term, right?
That's right. Well, it seems that has anybody seen any seeds in any stores? Because I'm hearing no.
Yeah, there's no seeds around. There used to be plentiful seed banks and seeds around in people's racks in different stores and head shops across Ontario. You're not seeing a lot of them. And in LP, licensed producer menus, which are the only legal supplier of cannabis or cannabis products, not a single one is offering seeds or clones.
A spokesperson for the Alberta Gaming, Liquor and Cannabis Commission says, as far as I know, there's none in the country.
Not a single one. Not a single seed to be had for sale on a legal avenue from a legal producing company where we're supposed to be buying these seeds. So Canadians across the country right now are, a lot of them already growing.
Yeah.
When those plants come to fruition, or when plants go outside this spring, will people be asking the question, where did you get the seeds?
Yeah, well, they were in the baggie, man, when I was done. They say that they're very hard. They're working very hard to get them, because we do know that it is a market that people want to partake in. Yes, people can grow inside. Don't give us crap. It's outside.
Yeah. They're only focused on the spring. Every LP in this country is an indoor grow. How can they not recognize indoor growing when that's what they do? It's beyond me that they would think that Canadians are only looking at growing outdoors. It's naive at best. Dumb, I think, is more like it, because, that is what they do. They are indoor cultivators as well. Of course, Canadians across the country are looking at indoor cultivation in their own homes. We want starting supplies. You're not providing them. That's definitely a big misstep.
Yeah, well, one of the licensed producers says that the company is currently working hard to review the optimal product portfolio for starting materials, both in the form of seeds and live plants. We are concerned about rushing this sort of product to market and wish to ensure the utmost quality of all stages of the supply chain before beginning these offerings. They don't have them. They're not ready yet.
They're not ready, and they won't be ready. They're not even looking at harvesting seeds or growing crop for seed production at this point. I think they're still trying to catch up with production for sale.
So what are people doing instead?
Wow, we as patients are very innovative group. We are cannabis connoisseurs around the country, have been very innovative for quite a number of decades. And we've noticed upon something that we've had access to in the patient world for quite some time, and that's gifting. In the patient world, we've been able to gift genetics, gift medicine, exchange different products, as it were, from patient to patient. Now with legalization, that's rolled over into the non-medicinal world. So a lot of people are giving it away.
Yeah, exactly. He says right here, he says he's allowed to gift plants under the Cannabis Act. He says that Cannabis Act states adults can share up to 30 grams of dried cannabis or their equivalent.
Yeah.
A couple clones, a couple seeds.
Yeah, they wrote it into the act for recreational use. Yeah, you guys can trade, you can gift, you can share all of that. There's no restrictions against it.
Yeah.
That's all been lifted.
And we've had that confirmed we've had that confirmed by a lawyer online.
Yeah, we've had that confirmed by a lawyer online as well already. Yes, there are no restrictions on gifting. So that's how we get the genetics out. Gift away, people.
Gift.
Gift. It tis the season. So no matter what you celebrate, do it with a gift.
Yeah. Pass it on.
Yeah, pass it on.
All right.
Genetics
That's good
will
to
follow.
know. Yeah, and actually, I think that story mentioned something about, I haven't got that window open anymore, but about an online gifting thing.
Yeah. So there's a gift registry or something. I'll have to look that up and put it on the site later on.
Okay, sounds good. All right, let's head to Kamloops, where there's
Yeah.
a woman that has filed a lawsuit against the BC cannabis store.
Here we go. The ones we can trust to do it right, right?
That's right, yes.
That's been the tagline. Health Canada's told us, LPs, man, they're the only ones we can trust now, Al. So
Yeah, that's right.
what's going on here?
She bought a product that she says was mislabeled, and she claims that she was unable to perform her duties as a student at the university.
It was mislabeled. So
Yeah.
she ordered a CBD but received a THC? What's
Correct. Exactly. That's what's happened. She got her some Hiko CBD oral spray, and it was supposed to be high in CBD, but instead it was a spray that had high THC in it.
Well, now there is a big recall from the people that we all trust. I got to tell you, it's not looking good for the LPs on this one.
No. Well, the notice of claim says that the defendant failed to warn the plaintiff of the dangers of this product, and it was mislabeled at the time of purchase. The defendants were negligent in failing to warn the plaintiff.
Now, this young lady, she largely describes herself as unfamiliar with the effects of cannabis use. She's not a cannabis consumer. She was using the CBD for medicinal purposes to get her through her academic season.
Yeah, exactly. She says that the incident took place during midterms, noting her grades suffered as a result.
Yeah. Well, if you all of a sudden are, almost, a tincture, a spray that we put under our tongue or in our mouth, that is almost an immediate effect. It goes into your blood vessels immediately. You feel it within moments of use. So you don't have to wait. There is no waiting time. So, within moments of using something like that, becoming intoxicated when you didn't expect to be would be very, very jarring for sure.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some comments online, and people have been blaming this lady that she should have done her research. And I'm thinking, if you go in to a store and you buy a bag of salt and vinegar potato chips, and when you get home you open them up and they're dill pickle instead of the labeled outside salt and vinegar chips, how is that person's fault?
That's right. It's the same thing. And, it's funny you use that analogy because the effect inside your mouth would be almost as shocking, relatively. Like, you're expecting one and you get the other. You would kind of go, whoa, what the hell is that?
Especially when you hate dill pickle chips.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that would create a reaction as did here. So great analogy. So, but it's not her fault by any means.
No.
This company mislabeled a product. And that's definitely, they've got to be held accountable for that.
Yeah. So it's interesting to see what happens. They've each got 21 days to respond to this, and there is, they don't know, there's no dollar amount. If somebody's trying to think, well, she's just trying to make millions off of this, there's no dollar amount listed.
No, I think it's more about accountability. On her loss. Loss was suffered here, and that has to be accounted for.
Yeah. Exactly. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure we will follow up with that story as it goes along.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're going to go from one end of the country to the other, right?
Yeah, this is a bit of a crappy story. Pun intended. Pun intended.
It most certainly is. Apparently, Halifax people, your crappers have been under investigation somewhat.
Yes, it's been discovered that in Halifax has got the most THC in their sewer system.
Now, I shudder to think how they find this out. I'm just gonna just a side note on this. I did not until today. I was not aware that Halifax people were called Haligonians.
I know. I looked at that too. I almost said hooligans.
Yeah, Haligonians. I almost thought it was from Hamilton or something, but no,
Yeah.
it's indeed Halifax. Haligonians, people from Halifax. Stats Canada. Yeah, you're measuring the cannabis consumption that's in the wastewater of different municipalities, and Halifax is one of them. And apparently, you guys got the highest use.
Yeah. Now, the reason they're doing this is because they believe that because of the stigma, the illegalities, that people would underreport their cannabis use, and this allows them to go in and get a more accurate picture of it all.
Go in and get it. Yeah, that's what they're doing. They're going in and getting it for sure in a big way. I can't believe that this is somebody's job. But okay, great. Canadian tax dollars hard at work testing our crap to see how much cannabis we use in case we don't tell the truth, people. Yeah, that's right. You heard it here first.
Halifax, just so you know, Halifax, the cannabis consumed per person per week at about 1,300 micrograms.
1,300 micrograms.
Yeah, yeah.
1,300. Halifax.
Yeah.
Haligonians.
The research came from researchers who sampled sewers for 1 week out of each of the study's 6 months and tested for a variant of THC. So for 6 months, 1 week each of those months, they were testing for THC in people's crap. Unwanted material, let's put it that way.
Unwanted material flushing down the toilet. Okay, just to pick this apart a little bit. What about people flushing shit down the toilet?
Well, I guess if someone's flushing some, I don't know why they would. Like, I guess it's like, huh?
Parents do it all the time.
Johnny's coming in and gonna flush my bag down the toilet?
Or hey, no, parents find Johnny's bag and say, you little shit, Johnny, I'm flushing this down the toilet.
Yeah. Well, they say it's not 100% accurate, but they figure it's a better method.
Yeah, okay. I just had to get my dig in there a little bit. Anyway, moving right along.
Yeah, well, they're using it. I'm going to get this tongue twister word out here. They use a technique called wastewater-based epidemiology.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Yeah, they checked Halifax, Montreal, Toronto, Edmonton, and Vancouver.
Torontonians.
And Halifax is just a little city compared to the rest of them.
Yeah, Halifax is little tiny, teeny, tiny thing speck in the mud compared to the size of the city of Toronto, which is a ginormous. God. I got to find out where these stats are being housed and look up all the cities. So watch for a post soon.
All right, last story before we go for another break.
Sounds good. This one is near and dear to my heart, being back in Northern Ontario. This one is coming to you out of the North Bay newspaper called My North Bay Now. Smoking, and I've experienced this. Actually, this is Northern Ontario wide, I might add, because this is happening in Timmins, my hometown, currently as well. No smoking, no vaping including e-cigarettes signs, are now being plastered throughout the city. Everywhere that there was a no smoking sign, there is now a no vaping sign is carried as well. But they are also carrying this over into places where people gather, they know, that are consuming cannabis.
Yeah, but our portable vaporizers for herb, I've never heard them called an e-cigarette. Because they have e-cigarettes in brackets under the no vaping line, which makes it more specific. You know, because they don't say no smoking tobacco or cannabis. It says no smoking because both of them are smoking.
Right.
But they specifically say e-cigarettes under the vaping. I'm just pointing that out.
In conversation there, I have been explicitly told all vaping is included in that. I had a conversation and I specifically asked about a volcano vaporizer. If that bag is filled in a designated no vape zone, it can be filled there, but you cannot consume it there. You have to then take it to an allowable zone to consume it.
Yeah, they say here the prohibition covers vaping and the smoking of tobacco and cannabis indoors or within 20 meters of places like schools and recreational facilities.
Now, my big concern with all of this, of course, immediately goes to the current vapor lounge community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, big time. You know, are they going to walk in there and start giving people tickets, $250 fine for the $50 victim surcharge, plus a $5 court cost?
They are already threatening to do so. The city of Timmins has allowed Porcupine Health Unit has taken over the smoking bylaws and the consumption laws are surrounding cannabis in the region here in Timmins, and a recently opened vape lounge that happened to open in town just a few weeks prior has now had the health unit visit and slap up signs inside and outside the premises saying no smoking and no vaping of any kind.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen the signs.
Yeah, so that is already currently happening in newly opened vape lounges in the region. So I'm not sure what's happening to Toronto.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. See what happens. We'll be watching that for sure. Well, let's go for break. And we'll see what's happening on the international side of things when it comes to vaping.
And so much more.
All right?
Sounds good.
Okay, well, Northern Ontario Kim and I will be right back after our medication session. Meanwhile, you, our listeners, will hear a bit of a CTV report on a test of two medical patients doing a sobriety test. And you will know one of the persons involved in that. And then more about that island from the Killing Time Band. You're listening to the Reefer Reporters. We are live here at 420radio.ca.
So what are you doing? Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
With recreational marijuana becoming legal October 17th, we're delivering a full week of special coverage. And tonight, Mi-Jung, you're looking at concerns about impaired driving.
That's right. You know, police are preparing for a possible increase in stoned drivers. So I decided to test how pot affects driving skills with Canada on the verge of going green.
Hi, my name's Cheryl, and I've been using medical cannabinoid oils since November.
My name is Mike, and I've been using medical cannabis for 17 years.
Cheryl McIntyre takes cannabis oil every day to calm her tremors and deal with other chronic illnesses.
It's given me my life back.
Okay.
Mike Mann smokes pot to ease the pain of his arthritis.
I usually smoke between 3 to 5 grams a day.
A heavy user, he calls himself highly functioning. If you smoke pot, you feel okay to drive after?
I usually do, yes.
And he does drive. Cheryl McIntyre, not so sure. She's worried about more people driving high once pot is legalized.
We stand with your heels and toes together and your arms by your side.
We've asked drug recognition expert Grayson Smith to conduct a standard sobriety test. This will be the main tool police use to get high drivers off the road. First, Cheryl takes her cannabis oil and Mike smokes his pot. It's been almost an hour since Cheryl's taken the oil. How are you feeling right now, Cheryl?
I'm feeling a little bit, I guess, loopy as well.
Loopy? Okay. She's going to take the test. Let's see how she does now. It doesn't take long for the officer to give her a fail.
Hi.
Police say someone like her could get a trip to the police station for further testing and possibly a criminal charge.
Makes me definitely more aware of why I wouldn't want to drive.
Now Mike's turn.
Begin.
He takes the test right after smoking, and the officer has concerns about his walking.
We believe that he's just affected enough that we should suspend his license from driving for the 24 hours.
And new provincial laws will give police another tool, a 90-day driving ban for drug impairment.
That's based on the results of a blood or a urine test or the drug recognition evaluation.
Ottawa has also approved this saliva screening device. So Mike Mann smoked pot about 10 hours ago. We've got the saliva test here. We're going to test him now to see how much THC is in his system. After putting his saliva in the Draeger 5000, even though it's been 10 hours since smoking, he still tests positive for THC, the active drug in marijuana.
This device would be used to take somebody off the road who isn't really presenting any risk. People are going to be wrongfully punished and wrongfully arrested.
Kyla Lee says studies have shown THC can remain in people's system for weeks, but it doesn't mean they're impaired. Some haziness remains around the issue, but what's clear, lawyers are poised to challenge laws in this new pot reality.
Legacy 420 has medicinal and recreational products down to a science, literally. With 2 biochemists on staff and a chief scientific advisor, every product is tested in the Legacy 420 laboratory. Legacy 420, Tyendinaga. Open 9 to 9 every day. Visit legacy420.com.
Some call her a fire plug and others can hear the passion in her voice. Find out what we mean by tuning into Cannabis and Coffee to Marijuana every Wednesday at 12 noon, 10 Mountain Time, here at 420radio.ca.
Lays around all day. So drink back fuel and get carried away. There's only a few guys, but tons of girls. So laying around half naked out by the pool. Someday we'll find it. Somehow, somewhere on Gillen Time Island.
We're back from our second medication session, plus checking on the dog. We are live here at 420radio.ca, and Kim and I still have lots to cover. Right, Kim?
Yeah, we most certainly do. You know, we were talking about vapor lounges and how the vapor laws are going to restrict lounges in the future in Ontario. If they continue at the route that they're going, a lot of them are going to have to close. So what are we going to be looking at in other places like down south in Vegas maybe?
Well, the Las Vegas Strip looks to open the cannabis lounges in 2019. The Nevada is looking at they're making a transition from state to local government after being elected to the Clark County Commissioner this month. They tend to make some changes.
Yeah, I guess a 7-member panel is going of legislators last week, including 5 reps in Nevada State Assembly. They made the trip to cannabis consumption lounges and decided to incorporate it with the Clark County model that's going to be coming and encompassing the Las Vegas Strip. Since legalization, they're noticing they're saying they don't want people consuming in the casinos. They don't want people consuming on the streets, but they can address and effectively see the effect that we need to put these people somewhere. Lounges are the answer.
Yeah, exactly. They did a 1-day fact-finding tour that began with a 2-hour conference in San Francisco Hall. And then they went and did went and did a tour.
Yeah. They came back with an overwhelming support to allow lounges to evolve. Law enforcement and business owners have taken a sort of laissez-faire approach to slowly opening and adjusting to the lounges over the last decade. They've had a little bit of minimal pushback from the federal and state level, but they're hoping that that's going to change now.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah. The evolution of lounges in Vegas. I mean, it's great things.
Yep. City officials, law enforcement, and business owners have all taken a laid-back approach to slowly opening and adjusting the lounges over the last decade. You know, as far as it sounds like Toronto. You know,
Yeah.
they have some lounges.
Yeah. Just kind of while they're there or whatever, they're not hurting anybody. I'm just going to keep on walking. You know, nobody really did. If nobody's bitching, I'm not going to do anything about it. It's been sort of just there.
Yeah, they say that
with legalization, though, they're all under a different scrutiny, and that's what they're facing in Vegas, the same as we are here. And that's the big parallel where Clark County is taking the handle on it. Like, yeah, okay, let's embrace this because the people need a place to go.
Yeah, that's right. Well, there's 7 licensed consumption areas currently operate in the city.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. That they're already starting there. Like those were sort of like, I guess, are ones that we have in Toronto now that have been there forever, that we all know and love and are used to, right? They've always kind of been there. So we have, a handful of them in the Toronto area and in the Hamilton area that have been there for a while. So they're there. New ones opening, that's the next pitch, and getting the existing ones proper license.
Yes, exactly. Well, let's hope they can get licenses, these lounges all up and running legally and everything. So it starts a trend to show that, hey, these are places that every jurisdiction should have.
Yeah. And, it's funny, the evolution in the United States, where it's still illegal federally, yet states individually, they're evolving at miles. Leaps and bounds ahead of Canada, where it's legal federally. And we're faced with all of these constraints and restrictions and just crazy rules and regs.
Yeah, well, in San Francisco, they allow up to 1 ounce per customer in a consumption lounge. 2 times a day, twice a day. They obviously have a situation where their lounges are also retail locations.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it goes. The city also requires that only cannabis purchased in the dispensary owned by the lounge can be consumed in that lounge.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. That's kind of weird.
Well, I guess you can't take a beer into a bar and drink it there. You can take a bottle of wine.
Yeah, you can. You can now. Today, you got to pay a corking fee usually, but yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like they got edibles there too. So
yeah, I mean, I don't mind buying, but I mean, if I'm coming in with my own stuff, I still want to be able to consume my own.
With us getting edibles here in Canada come October, and if lounges get going, buds and edibles at lounges sounds good to me.
Most certainly does. It most certainly does. Another place that's looking at saying lounges look good to me is Portland, Oregon. They're jumping on the bandwagon over there saying, hey, you know what? We need some lounges.
Oh, yes, for sure. They sure do. Let's see. They legalized it in 2014. Oh.
Yeah, for medicinal use. It was legalized there in 2014, and it's actually okay to smoke and legal to sell. But places it can be consumed are the same kind of restrictions we're going to be facing in a lot of provinces in Canada. Yeah. You can only smoke in your own home unless you live in a no smoking apartment, and then if that's the case, well, then you're pretty much screwed. So they're saying, hey, you know what? Lounges.
Yeah.
Give us lounges.
A state rep points out, and which is the same thing here in Canada, When we legalized cannabis in 2014, we only really legalized it for people who can afford their own homes. It may be time to re-examine how this law was written. And it's the same thing here. And not even your own home. You can, like people buy a condo, you're buying that. You're not renting it.
That's still your home.
It's still your home.
The definition of home has changed vastly over the years. I mean, it used to be that they would say, you own your own home. The home definition of home was a freestanding independent structure, a house by itself with a yard, That's no longer the case anymore. People's homes are in condominiums. We own those. They're the same as anybody else's home, and they should come with the same rights and privileges as a freestanding structure.
Yeah. Samantha Montero, she says that social consumption of cannabis and creating a system for regulating is very important. Right now, it's only legal to consume in private spaces, and that really narrows someone's options for where they can legally consume cannabis. We've licensed and regulated this plant for adults to consume, but we're not giving them anywhere for people to go.
That's right. And, it's amazing to me the parallels that I see here. That's what we're going into in Canada. We legalized it, but so many jurisdictions and provinces are not giving the people a place to consume. And this is going to create the exact same issues. You cannot make a product legal and then tell everybody there's nowhere they can use it.
Mm-hmm, yeah. There's a group there, the New Revenue Coalition. They argue that cannabis cafes could provide tours for adults in much the same way microbreweries and wineries offer tours, right? Yeah. Hotels could provide a cannabis cafe for their guests inside the hotel. There's an idea.
Yep. Absolutely. Love these ideas and the innovative ideas that are out there. I mean, there are so many of them, and all of them will increase tourism, people coming out and about in your city that live there. Not only people coming from far and wide, but people that live there. So many people are stuck in their homes today because there are no places to go out. You have some of these places that you have to offer, and I would shop outside the home longer periods of time if I had a place to stop in the middle of the day. That generates the economy in your area, and it makes for a prosperous region. Good for everybody all the way around.
Well, in Colorado, they try dispensary tasting rooms. The General Assembly there, they thought it was okay, but the governor vetoed it.
Yeah, the governor vetoed it. That kind of put all of their plans right down the toilet. Everybody had very, very high hopes. Everybody was on board. But that's changed now, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Has it?
I think that changes now. They had their midterms, and everything kind of got flipped with the Senate and with the House of Representatives.
The House changed big time.
Yeah, the House got changed over big time. So maybe a light at the end of the tunnel in the near future.
Yeah. Well, their deputy health officer in Oregon, they say that the Indoor Clean Air Act is one of the most important things we've done to protect the health of Oregons, to make sure people who are protected from the risk of secondhand smoke. They also know that cannabis smoke has many of the same cancer-causing chemicals as tobacco smoke and even vapors from vaping devices. There you go. Cancer-causing chemicals are in cannabis, and no one's had cannabis from cancer.
Yeah, once again, somebody else that needs to get educated. I wish these people would speak to the facts.
Yeah. Well, they mentioned that no other state has implemented public use of cannabis law allowing public use of cannabis. Come to Ontario.
Yeah.
They say that the more smoking that goes on in public, it's a trigger for someone to start smoking.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's more reefer madness propaganda, and it's somebody that obviously has no clue about the stats or the facts about cannabis. He's confusing cannabis with tobacco. They're nowhere nothing like cannabis doesn't cause cancer by any means, and there's no carcinogen effects. And vapor smoke doesn't stick to your lungs. It doesn't stick to the walls. It doesn't stick to your furniture. It doesn't stick to anything. It's vapor. It dissipates. If there's no flavoring in it, which there isn't in any cannabinoid product, then there are no other carcinogens in there or toxins in there that are going into the air. So, I mean, none of this, what he says is factual. I don't understand how these people can go away in today's world spewing nonsense.
Yeah, I know. Well, Samantha, again there, she says, I'm a mother, I'm a business owner, I'm the president of a nonprofit. I'm a highly functioning woman in the world. If I want a place to consume cannabis, I should have a place that I can go and do that without feeling like a criminal.
That's right. That's
Exactly.
right. And that's everybody's right as soon as it becomes allowable under the law. And it is allowable under the law there. So this guy needs to get his head out of the sand and join the rest of the population.
That's right. That's right. Okay, well, let's, 17 years ago, Canada legalized medical cannabis. And, geez, we're seeing more and more countries. Every report we have another country that's legalizing medical cannabis. And one of them, we were talking recently about how East Asian countries, how, everyone seems to be racing to be the first. There was Thailand, Malaysia, and now there's South Korea.
South Korea in Asia is on board. Asia is on fire along with the rest of the globe in a sea of green. There are green fans being flamed from one end of this planet to the other, and it's just going in a complete circle and looping back around again. Like you said, they're falling like Lego blocks. It's amazing watching it happen. It's like domino effect. Now Korea, who would have thought South Korea wants to become the first East Asian country to legalize medicinal cannabis, which is huge for that part of the world.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're a very conservative society, and for them to accept this, it's more and more people are seeing the benefits. This is what's happening. That snowball is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Well, you can't deny it anymore.
Yeah. No, that's right.
When everybody says, "Oh, it's anecdotal information just in your little group," well, you know what? All those groups have joined together, and it's a pretty big group.
Yeah. Well, the Ministry of Food and Drug Safety is going to establish specific regulations on what exactly will be allowed and the procedure patients will have to follow. Medical cannabis products will be tightly restricted, but the law's approval and legislation is seen as a breakthrough in a country many believe would be the last, not among the first in Asia to approve any use of cannabis at all.
It's an amazing thing. Before the bill becomes law, it still requires deliberation in the state council and the country's cabinet, and then the signature of the president. More details are due to be released in the coming days on the framework, according to their spokesman there. Cannabis could be imported as soon as the first half of 2019 if all of this gets finalized.
Yeah, they're gonna hone in on THC and CB based medications that have already been approval from agencies in certain countries, including Western Europe and the United States.
Wow, amazing. They've already got a lineup of who's going to facilitate, the imports of the medication coming in. It seems that they have an entire framework set up in place. They're just waiting for this ball to pass through regular channels.
Yeah, well, back in July, they started to permit the pharmaceutical grade versions like Marinol, Sesament, Sativex. Yeah. They started all of them. And that was for epilepsy, HIV, AIDS, and cancer-related treatments.
Yeah, it was very, very restricted. But I guess with further looking at it, further research, further discussions in other countries such as Canada, and I'm sure Canada's legalization has a lot to do with this. It seems to be pushing the ball forward in many other countries and being used as a parallel for people to compare to and saying, well, look, Canada did it. That's kind of pushed the agenda forward a lot, I think. And Korea is next in line. And of course, their own little rivalry down there, they got to be first, right?
That's right. It's good to see that countries are now racing to be the first.
That's excellent. That's an awesome race to be in.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to our last story of the day.
Sure. Sounds good. Where are we off to this one?
Brazil, because their lawmakers have approved medical marijuana.
Medical marijuana in Brazil. Another country bites the dust from Asia to Latin America. Falling like dominoes. It's a green fire.
Yes, that's right. A key Senate committee in Brazil approved a bill to allow the use and cultivation of cannabis for medical purposes. The measure, which is brought in about response to an online citizen-led petition that received about 119,000 votes, would remove criminal penalties for growing, possessing, and consuming cannabis for patients who receive prescriptions from doctors. Nice.
Wow. It's got to be signed off on the legislature, but before the full Senate gets the vote, it will also pass through the Commission and the Constitution of Justice there. So it's still got a few hurdles to go through, and then it winds up at the Chamber of Deputies and before it becomes law.
Yes, but of course, it always needs to have the president's signature.
And Presidente has to be signing off on that in the very end.
And the president-elect there, he has said he is against legalization and has pledged to enforce harsh anti-drug laws.
Yeah, a brand new election happened down there in Brazil recently, and a lot of people are quite upset. And cannabis is only one of the actually very minor thing in the grand scheme of things with what's going on. But yeah, the new president that elect down there is not cannabis friendly, and everything looks to be derailed that was put in place. So new things not happening maybe in Brazil. We'll have to wait and see if this president has a change of heart by the time this bill gets to his desk. But not looking good for Brazil.
Yeah, one of the senators says we cannot relegate the issue to mere political discussion. More than anything, we need to emphasize and put ourselves in the place of the other. In this way, we can, as legislators, defend the true essence of health care, which is to mitigate human suffering.
That's right. And that's what they've got to push this on is the health care and what it's doing for people. It's saving people's lives. It's stopping suffering. And that's what you're supposed to be committed to doing if you're a doctor. And that's what your government's supposed to do to keep you out of harm's way, right?
It says here that separately the leader of the Brazil's Workers' Party in the lower house chamber introduced a bill earlier this year that would fully legalize cannabis in the country. That legislation would establish a commercial cannabis market and allow individuals to grow up to 6 plants for personal use. Well, hopefully that it's tough. You're up against that new president that wants to be tough on, and you look at some of the other countries, their harsh anti-drug laws, and you really got to worry.
Yeah, you really do. You've got to be very, very concerned. Is this president going to lump cannabis back into the fold with all of the other drugs and treat it the same as they do with cocaine and heroin and all the other things that they're having issues with over there? Or is he going to treat it as the medicinal plant that it is and keep it separate from that whole collection?
Yeah, well, time will tell. Let's hopefully we don't hear reports of shooting squads going around taking out people.
Yeah, another one that we'll be watching to see with what's going on in Brazil.
That's right. Well, Kim, that's it. We're done.
We're done for the day. It's been a busy, busy week in cannabis, and I'd expect it to continue throughout the year.
That's right. That's our Reefer Report from the Legacy 420 News Desk for December the 3rd, 2018. As we close the show, we'd like to say thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed it, please share it with somebody you know who loves the news, even if they don't love cannabis. Until the next time, don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
Bark at you later.
Legacy 420 has medicinal and recreational products down to a science, literally. With 2 biochemists on staff and a chief scientific advisor, every product is tested in the Legacy 420 laboratory. Legacy 420, Tyendinaga. Open 9 to 9 every day. Visit legacy420.com.
So what are you doing? Nothing? Why not?
I'm trying to get on this lifestyle radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.